As we stand on the threshold of 2025, we find ourselves entering a season of profound transformation, the year of the chosen ones. This is not merely a moment in time, but a divinely appointed season, where vessels meticulously prepared for such a time as this are summoned to rise and fulfill their destinies. These individuals are not mere products of their circumstances. They are sovereignly set apart by God, called to execute exploits that echo heaven's eternal purpose. Yet for some of these consecrated vessels, the path to their full potential is obscured by the weight of unresolved bloodline curses, spiritual entanglements that have ensnared their ancestors for generations. In this pivotal year, however, a sacred window of opportunity opens before them, an invitation to break free from the spiritual strongholds that have shackled their bloodlines, to realign with God's divine will, and to emerge as instruments of emancipation for themselves and the generations to come. This marks the beginning of a new legacy, one of spiritual freedom and divine restoration. In this context, it is crucial to understand the deeper significance of bloodlines. Far from being mere biological connections, bloodlines are spiritual conduits of immense importance, each carrying a unique inheritance of divine potential and purpose. These familial lines are not only the intersection of generations past and present, but also the battleground where the forces of light and darkness wage war for the fulfillment of destiny. God, in his infinite wisdom, ordains specific bloodlines to carry out his eternal purposes on earth, investing them with extraordinary gifts, callings, and divine mandates. Conversely, Satan, fully aware of their spiritual potency, seeks to pervert and distort these lineages to fulfill his own dark designs. These bloodlines, brimming with potential for both divine fulfillment and demonic manipulation, become battlegrounds in the cosmic war between light and darkness. While God's ultimate aim is to redeem, restore, and elevate these bloodlines to their destined glory, the enemy seeks only to enslave them through covenantal entanglements, ensuring that the divine call is muted, perverted, or altogether thwarted. This battleground is not theoretical. It is fought in the realm of spiritual forces that directly influence the course of human history. Chief among these forces are principalities, fallen celestial beings who, upon their descent to earth, immediately sought out those families marked by divine potential. These families, destined by God for a higher purpose, became the targets of these malevolent beings. Through their cunning and manipulation, the principalities extended covert offers of wealth, power, and influence, seducing some into the occult and binding them in dark practices. In their malevolent schemes, these fallen beings do not merely bestow material wealth, they also confer upon their chosen vessels a formidable spiritual authority, elevating them to the ranks of witches and wizards. When the witch or wizard, the custodian of this malevolent mantle, passes from the earthly realm, the mantle does not dissipate. Instead, it is methodically transferred to another heir within the bloodline, ensuring the perpetuation of the demonic priesthood and the relentless extension of its dominion, thereby securing the generational bondage of the soul. This dark covenant granted the fallen beings legal access to these bloodlines, chaining them to a cycle of spiritual oppression and manipulation. Thus, what was once a conduit for divine blessing became for some a channel for Satan's destructive schemes. As a consequence, the very bloodlines once intended for glory and divine fulfillment became ensnared in cycles of spiritual oppression and affliction. These manifestations of torment are not limited to mere physical suffering, but are profoundly spiritual in nature, taking the form of untimely death, chronic illness, addiction, mental instability, and many other afflictions, each a harrowing manifestation of hell's fury unleashed upon the earth through these corrupted lineages. However, despite the seemingly unyielding grip of darkness, God, in his infinite mercy and justice, does not abandon these families to their fate. Instead of forsaking them, he moves in his great love and sovereign grace to redeem what has been marred. While the enemy seeks to perpetuate generational curses, God sees beyond the veil of affliction, identifying a singular vessel within the bloodline, a person whom he has ordained to shatter the cycle of bondage. When this individual aligns with God's divine purpose, he empowers them with his grace, equipping them to break the chains that have bound their lineage for generations. This divine intervention marks the beginning of a profound transformation, as these chosen vessels undergo a metamorphic process that refines and equips them to operate in the power and authority reminiscent of the great patriarchs Elisha, David, and Joseph. Just as Elisha was granted spiritual sight, God, in his sovereign wisdom, opens their eyes to discern the unseen movements of the enemy. He imparts divine understanding, unveiling the secret schemes woven through their family's heritage, exposing the masterminds of the demonic influence that has plagued their bloodline for generations. As with David, God trains their hands for warfare and their fingers for battle, forging them into resolute spiritual warriors capable of confronting and defeating the giants that have long plagued their lineage. Through this refining process, they emerge as victors, having shattered the strongholds of oppression. With this newfound victory, God elevates them to positions of leadership, entrusting them with greater authority and responsibility. In the same vein as Joseph, these vessels are not only entrusted with the stewardship of kingdom resources, but are also positioned in high places of influence, strategically placed to bring about transformation. In these exalted positions, they are called to confront and dismantle the forces of evil that perpetuate spiritual bondage, becoming instruments of divine justice, tasked with disrupting and overthrowing the entrenched works of darkness. The path to freedom is not without its excruciating cost. In his divine wisdom, God allows these vessels to undergo a process of intense purification, forging their spiritual endurance in the crucible of adversity. This journey is fraught with heartbreak as they come to the harrowing realization that those they once considered family, parents, siblings, uncles, aunts, or even grandparents, were in fact among the very ones responsible for the affliction that has bound them for so long. In addition to the profound and soul-wrenching heartbreak they endure, these chosen vessels find themselves contending with a relentless spiritual onslaught. For in response to their divine calling, Satan, in his malicious cunning, assembles a vast host of demonic forces, an army designed to impede their every advance and undermine the fulfillment of God's sovereign purpose. This battle is not merely one of personal anguish, but a cosmic struggle where the very fabric of their bloodline's redemption hangs in the balance. The forces of darkness, recognizing the peril to their dominion, unleash a torrent of resistance, seeking to ensnare and thwart these vessels as they rise to fulfill their high calling and liberate what had been bound for generations. The Book of Psalms, with its rich tapestry of lamentation and hope, provides a profound lens through which we can understand the depth of the trials and afflictions these vessels must endure. The psalmist's anguished cries echo the very struggles faced by those called to bear the weight of divine destiny. Yet it is within the crucible of such suffering that these chosen vessels are both refined and fortified, their spirits honed for the monumental task that lies ahead. This fire of adversity, though intense, serves to purify and strengthen them, transforming their weakness into an unyielding fortitude. Scripture, in its unwavering clarity, reminds us that while many are called to this sacred purpose, only a few are chosen. For it is through the intensity of the refining process and the overwhelming opposition that God separates the faint-hearted from the resolute. It is in this divine sifting that only those who possess the strength to endure, persevere, and ultimately emerge triumphant are selected for the fulfillment of their kingdom mandate. Once this refining process reaches its culmination, the chosen vessels undergo a profound transformation. They are no longer mere mortals. They are forged into formidable weapons in God's hands, fashioned for His sovereign purposes. Entrusted with the task of engaging in spiritual warfare, they carry out His will with unparalleled divine authority. Wrapped in the fervent protection of God, they are guarded jealously, for they have become sacred instruments of His judgment. Anyone who dares to oppose them invites swift and relentless divine retribution, as these vessels are empowered not only to endure, but to dismantle the forces of darkness. No longer mere tools, these consecrated agents of divine justice carry the full weight of God's will, bringing His kingdom to bear against every opposing force. As we step fully into 2025, a profound summons echoes through the heavens. God is commissioning a new generation of vessels, individuals who, with unwavering commitment, will surrender their lives completely to the alignment of His divine will. These consecrated ones will be empowered by God to break the destructive cycles and patterns that have bound their bloodlines for generations. This is a season of spiritual awakening and consecration, where the obedient will rise as instruments of His redemption, dismantling strongholds and guiding their families into the fullness of their God-ordained destinies. Through divine refinement, these chosen vessels will emerge not as mere survivors, but as triumphant agents of God's kingdom, advancing His purpose on earth with authority and precision. The time is now. Will you heed the call?